Today, we shall see further on our subject. Last time we saw how our life is like a sacrificial fire and we need to purify our lives. And with pure intention, when we perform our actions, that is what is called as being true karma yogi. Today we shall see further where God is asking Arjuna to surrender the actions and be soul conscious, negating the mind from all expectations, attachments, and grief, and then fight. When we have seen earlier in our earlier sessions that this is not a physical or a violent war that is going on, but it is the battle of human life, where each and every moment we are battling, and especially today in the world, everybody is battling with Corona, COVID-19. So we find that when every human being is battling, so that is when God says, be soul conscious and negate your mind from all expectations, attachments, and grief, and then fight. Because when we are battling and when these emotions just come up in our life, attachment, expectations, grief, then our battle becomes worst. It will beyond our level of tolerance. It will be beyond our level of acceptance. And that is going to be really painful for a person. Because when there are a lot of expectations in the mind and he has to battle and his expectations are not fulfilling, then definitely he goes through a lot of pain. Similarly, in attachment, when we are deeply attached with people and in that attachment we have our own expectations and we want some things to be done, we want some things to get from our life and we are not getting it. That is when it really becomes painful. So God is advising that in order to fight this battle of life, you have to be soul conscious. And when you are soul conscious, definitely the soul is maintaining a balance between being loveful and at the same time being detached also. Rather than having expectations and attachments, instead of attachments, yes, we have to be loveful. Our love should be in a purest form so that the acceptance level becomes a little bit higher. And that is when we can perform our duties or look after our responsibilities in a beautiful manner. But when a person gets deeply attached, then he may not be able to do his duties, responsibilities as he should do. And that is when that love, it is not that love, but the impure form of love, which becomes attachment. And that gives us the pain. Then he says the reality is that during meditation, the real form of war arises. Why does the real form of war arise during meditation? Because during meditation, we want to focus our minds on the Supreme or on the Almighty. But as soon as I'm trying to focus my mind on the Almighty, that is the time when all the different scenes start appearing in the back of the mind. Like supposing during the day, I have had a chat with somebody, and during that chat, something came out of my mouth which I shouldn't have told him because he was not trustworthy. But because it was just a conversation, and it happened, the words just happened to slip out of my tongue, through my tongue, and I was not even aware what I spoke and what would be the reaction. During the day when I'm busy in my work, I hardly remember anything. But the moment I sit down in meditation, and the first thing that would appear on the screen of my mind is that person with whom I had that conversation. And then I realized that I shouldn't have told him this thing because it's not trustworthy at all. And now, if he's going to go to that person and he would narrate the whole thing in a different way, or he may twist the whole thing, and if he would twist it in this manner, we will develop a great misunderstanding. And that would be very difficult for me to maintain my relationship with that person, because it would be very difficult to clear up that misunderstanding. Now I'm sitting in meditation, and instead of focusing my mind on the Almighty, my mind is going again and again towards that whole thing that had happened. And then I would regret I shouldn't have told him. If only I would have been aware at that time. I hope this person would not go and say anything to that person and twist the whole thing and create all this misunderstanding. So, this is where the war arises. I'm trying to focus my mind, but my thoughts are taking me into different directions. I may become aware that my thoughts are not concentrating. So I may try to pull my mind back, but again and again, my mind starts wandering in that. So the real war arises when we are sitting in meditation. Similarly, supposing I have seen any scene through my eyes, and at that moment I may have taken it lightly. But once I sit in meditation and the whole scene appears in the screen of my mind, and I think, I shouldn't have said, I think I saw it with my own eyes. My eyes cannot deceive me. I think it was that person. I think he was there. And so many thoughts would come. I may try to negate my mind from those thoughts, but again and again, my mind is going towards. And I'm trying to focus my mind in meditation, and I can't do it. So that is why sometimes people say the mind is very naughty. It's like a naughty horse, and you cannot control the mind. Similarly, something you hear through your ears, and somebody has tried to tell you something, and at that time we may have taken it so lightly. But afterwards, I realized, why did that person bring this subject in front of me? Did he have some other intentions? Was he trying to signal me something different? So many thoughts I would start assuming, and it would just come on the screen of my mind, and I get mentally disturbed. I cannot focus my mind. So it is the sense organs which are driving my mind from here to there on different subjects, on different assumptions. And that is when there is a war that is going inside, and we are hardly able to realize it. So vices like lust, anger, attachment, hatred, expectations, desires, etc., attack in their frightful form and create obstacles for the mind. So rightful war is to finish all of that, get concentrated in the remembrance of the Supreme by being soul conscious. So this is the base. This is the base for each and every person, that if we really want to sit in meditation, first of all, I need to stabilize myself in soul conscious stage, because that becomes the platform from where I can just take the flight, and I take the mind on a beautiful journey into meditation. For example, there is a doctor, and at home is on a vacation for 2-3 days. At home, he would not consider himself to be a doctor. At home, he is a member of the family. So when he is on a holiday, definitely at home, he would try to help in the home matters also. He may spend his time with his children. He may like to do some gardening, so he may go out in the garden and do some gardening also, because he does not consider himself to be a doctor. He is not in that consciousness. But supposing Monday morning and he has to join his duty, and as he's getting ready to go to the hospital, he would not recite, or he would not remind himself, I'm a doctor, I'm a doctor, I'm a doctor. No. He naturally gets stabilized in that consciousness. And as he comes in that consciousness that I'm a doctor, what is he reminded of? He remembers his patients, operations. He remembers what treatment has to be given to which patient. Then he thinks about his OPD, etc. So many things that he starts planning inside of what is to be done, and accordingly, one after the other, he's planning accordingly, because he's in that consciousness that I am a doctor. So he would start planning out his complete day. When he reaches the hospital, somebody greets him, good morning, sir. And very officially, he would also say good morning and move forward. He would not stand there talking waste about here and there. No, because he knows he's a doctor and there is value of his time. He values his each and every moment because he's in that consciousness. Similarly, there is a teacher. At home, he or she would not consider himself as a teacher. But Monday morning, and as he prepares himself to go to the school, he would not remind himself, I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, no. But as soon as he is stabilized in that consciousness, immediately he starts planning out his day. What activities are to be done with which class? Unit exams, unit tests, homework, checking the homework, or taking on an activity with certain classes. All is being planned out. He would not remember his own children at that time because he is not in the consciousness of a father, he is in the consciousness of a teacher. So he remembers his students. Similarly, when a person is in the consciousness that I am a husband, he would remember his wife. When he's in this consciousness, I'm a child, he remembers his parents. When he's in this consciousness, I'm a parent, he remembers his children. Profession-wise, whatever he would consider himself, stabilizing that consciousness, he would think about that work. Similarly, when I stabilize myself in soul consciousness, whom will I remember? Definitely, it will become easy for me to focus my attention, to focus and concentrate my mind on that Supreme Being also. So everything depends upon the consciousness I take. If I am in a body conscious stage, if I think myself I am so and so, I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, I am this, I am that, I am going to remember only those things which are connected with that I. And that is when I cannot focus my attention. I cannot concentrate my mind. It will be difficult. And every time I have to battle with my mind. So the basic thing that has to be understood for meditation is, especially in these challenging times, what consciousness do I have for myself at this moment? And slowly and gradually, if I really want to be a practitioner of meditation, then I need to stabilize myself in soul conscious stage. It is essential for me. And then God says to Arjuna, the one who remains free from the vision of blaming others and remains in this war with faith gets liberated from the bondages of karma. Normally, when people are not able to focus their minds, what happens? What happens? We try to put the blame onto somebody that it was because of this person that I was not able to focus my mind. It was because of this that I was not able to do this. I was not able to meditate. My mind was disturbed. My mind was wandering here and there because so many things have happened during the whole day. So everything depends upon the consciousness I take for myself. The moment I am in soul conscious stage, it will become very easy for me to concentrate my mind, focus my mind, and negate all other thoughts from the mind which are disturbing. So do not put the blame onto others. There is no need for us to put the blame onto others that it is because of this person or because of this thing that I'm not able to focus my mind. It is because maybe I'm not in the right consciousness. So the mind was wandering. I'm trying to pull my mind and it wanders away again. Then Arjuna asked a beautiful question, that who inspires human beings to commit sins? Why do people commit sins? And God says it is lust and anger which are like fire, are the creation of Rajoguna. They are supplementary to attachment and hatred and are constant enemies of the wise ones. So lust and anger, these are such emotions which are the supplements of attachment and hatred and are constantly enemies of the wise people. So it is said, wisdom is that we are able to detach ourselves from these impurities of the life, like lust, anger, which are like fire. It is always going to burn, isn't it? Constantly like a fire. Anger, when a person gets angry, it's like a fire in him. He is burning inside and is disturbing others also. So they are the constant enemies of the wise people. The knowledge is submerged due to lust. There is no knowledge that emerges at that time. And these vices dwell in the mind and intellect and the senses. So vices, where do they dwell? What is their residential place, address? The residential address is they dwell in the mind, intellect, and the senses. Thus, Arjuna, this is an internal war where you need to conquer your senses. You have to have victory upon your senses. It is the senses that are pulling you in different directions. One who masters the senses destroys the sense through wisdom and the science of yoga. Yoga is also known as science. Yoga is an art and it is a science. Why we call it as a science? Because just as science produces or gives a logic to each and everything that emerges in the mind, any questions that come up, science has given us a logic and it would explain everything clearly why we have to do certain things. Similarly, yoga is also science which gives us a complete understanding of the functioning of our mind, intellect, how the soul also performs karma, why we do certain types of karma, what makes us do those karma. Everything is explained very logically, even on this path of yoga, karma yoga, we can say. So, the wisdom is there of why we do certain things in our life. And accordingly, I have to be cautious about it. So, it is an internal war, it is not an external war, it is not a violent war, it is a non violent war that is. Then, God asked Arjuna that it is better you have to have control upon your mind so that it doesn't wander here and there. You have to have control upon your senses. And like any human being, Arjuna also has these questions in his mind that can we control our mind and intellect and the senses? Is it easy for us to control the mind, intellect, and senses? So then God explains to Arjuna, Arjuna, beyond this body are the senses. Beyond senses is the mind. Beyond mind is the intellect. And beyond the intellect is you yourself, a subtle, powerful, and a very elevated soul. So, by understanding your soul power, control the mind through your intellect, and destroy your enemy, that is lust, because it is the lust that influences the soul through the senses. So, did we get what he tried to explain us? I don't think so. Let me explain to you on the basis of a story how it is, how can we control our senses, mind, and intellect, all the three. Once there was a traveler and he had a very beautiful horse. So he thought, he went to a kingdom and he went up to the king and said, I have a beautiful horse, very strong, who runs very swift like wind. But I would like to present this horse, but only if you have somebody who knows how to master the horse. Because if you do not have a master, I cannot give it to you. So the king smiled and said, well, I have so beautiful masters. They can easily master any type of horse. So this traveler said, well, this is not an ordinary horse. It is very swift and very wise. So we need somebody very powerful who knows the tact of mastering this horse. So if we can fix a Sunday, maybe you can call all your masters from different parts of your kingdom, gather them on a ground, I will also bring my horse there, and then we can see which master is capable of mastering that horse. So the king said, okay. And then the traveler said, we can call the subjects also. They can sit around the ground and see how the master masters the horse. Okay, everything was planned. And accordingly, the Sunday was fixed. All the masters arrived from different parts of the country. And the traveler also comes with his horse on the ground. One by one, the masters start coming down into the ground. And they want to master this horse, but the horse is so fast. Anyone would come from the front, he would raise his both legs and hit them. Anybody who tries to come from behind, he would just kick them and throw them off. Means nobody was able to come near the horse. Mastering was so far away, but nobody was able to come near the horse also. And now gradually all the masters, they were losing. They were not able to master the horse. So gradually they started moving away. Finally, when all the masters failed to master that horse, the traveler asked the king, do you have anyone else? And the king was so astonished. How can it be? I have wonderful masters. How can they fail in front of one horse? How is it that they are not able to master this horse? So the king announces in the public, is there anyone who can really master this horse? The public thought, if the masters are not able to master, how is it possible for us to master? So they don't come forward. The prince was watching the whole scene since the beginning. So he raised up his hand and he told the king, if you can grant me the permission, I would like to go and master the horse. So the king said, how will you go? The masters they were not successful. How will you do it? So he said, please give me permission. I think I can do it. So the king said, okay, go ahead. So the prince was watching since the beginning that the traveler had placed the horse in such a direction that from there was a big shadow, a huge shadow. And when there was a huge shadow, so whenever anybody came near the shadow, the horse would just jump wildly, could not tolerate, and so would just attack. Anyone coming from behind, anyone coming from the front. So the first thing that the prince did was he gradually went near the horse and gradually he changed the direction. And he put him in that direction from where there was no shadow. And the horse could not see anything now. And then from behind, he jumped onto the horse on the saddle and just took the strings and pulled the strings. And the horse was mastered, became quiet. The same thing is with the mind. The mind is like a naughty horse, wandering here and there on different subjects throughout the day, wandering on such subjects also which are irrelevant, waste, negative, all these types of thoughts. So the mind is compared to that naughty horse. Now the traveler, that is the soul, has placed the horse in such a direction from where we are able to see the shadows. And the shadows are so long, and whoever comes near the shadow, we are scared. There is fear. And we feel so much possessive about ourselves, about our things, that there is constant fear whether this person would snatch away these things from me or not. So constant pressure is being built. So the first thing, if I really want to master my mind, my senses, my intellect, because all three are very deeply connected to one another. Whatever actions I do with the senses, the messages are immediately going to go to the mind, and the mind would produce its own intentions in it, and in the end of the day, that mind would share with the intellect, who has visualized everything, because the third eye of wisdom is with the intellect. So it visualizes everything, and that is when it is difficult for us to manage our minds. So the first thing the soul or the prince need to do is change the direction of the mind. Change the consciousness. Let me see in which consciousness I am stabilized. So the moment I change my consciousness from physical, gross, to a subtle level, that is the soul consciousness, where I consider myself to be a soul. So when I convert those thoughts from body consciousness to soul consciousness, and then as soon as I become soul conscious, then I cannot see any shadow in front of me. The shadow is of desires. The shadow is of expectations. The shadow is of all the achievements I want to have, lust, anger, ego, greed. All this is the shadow. So if the shadow is in front of me, definitely every day we want something to be fulfilled. Today I would like to have this. Today I would like to have that. Today I want this. Today I want that. Every day we have new demands. And then it is very difficult to master the mind. We take the mind in a garage also. But there also it is not within our control. Wherever we take, we cannot control the mind. So, now, how to control the mind? So first of all, change its directions. Keep it in that direction where there are no desires, no lust, no greed, no such negative emotions in front of me, because that is what is making the mind fluctuate a great deal. So now when I keep that in front of me, what happens? Gradually, I know where I'm taking the mind. Then the soul can just jump over, take control, take the reins, that is the intellect. Take the reins of the intellect in your own hand by becoming soul conscious, and then you can see you master your mind. So God says, by understanding your soul power, you are so powerful. Your soul is very powerful. Just jump onto the back of the mind. Take the reins of the intellect in your hand and control your mind. To destroy your enemy, that is lust. It is the lust that influences the soul through the senses. So I need to master the senses also. So you have done this way, you find that we are able to master the mind in a beautiful way. Is it easy? Definitely, it takes time. Practice makes a man perfect. We need to have a lot of practice developing soul consciousness. Some people feel, I think it's just impossible for me to develop that. It's not impossible. Nothing is impossible in this world. But I need to pay attention, constantly bring into my awareness and check where I am standing at this moment. And every moment when these words I and my come out from my mouth, I have to be so conscious as to what I am speaking. Right? So that is how we need to turn the mind. How do we increase this practice? Look, whenever changes have taken place in our lives, were we comfortable with those changes? Not at all. Whenever there is a new change coming up, initially the mind would just reject it. No, I'm not comfortable with this type of lifestyle. I want to bring a change. I want to do this. I want to do that. So many expectations in life. And that is when the mind loses its control. So, if I want to master the mind, definitely my soul conscious stage has to be very powerful. Just as if a small child, when it's small, young, it is moving from one hand to another hand. It is so much pampered, everything. But when it grows to the age of 3 or 4, and we send him to a play school, realizing, because the parents, they have this realization, education is a must. If we do not educate our son, he won't be able to do anything in his life. So education is a must. But the moment we send him to a play school to learn something, the first day, will the child be comfortable at school? No. He starts crying. He starts throwing things away. I don't want to go, because he feels as if now I am being tied in a bondage of studies. And my independence, my freedom, I'm losing that freedom. Otherwise, I was free to move here and there, eat what I like. I was from one hand to another hand. I was so much of pampered child. But now when the child grows up, he can no longer be a child. He has to be an adult. Isn't it? And so, any change is never accepted immediately. But we need to give a practice to that child. Every day, the mother would also accompany the child to the play school. And when the child sees the mother sitting there, maybe knitting or doing something, some or the other work she also takes with her, because she knows the value of her time. So this child, in between, he would see whether his mother is sitting or is gone. He would come out of the class and again he would run to his mother, play with him, something here and there, talk to her something about what he has learned. And then again go to school after the break. And when he starts studying, gradually he gets habituated. There is a practice. Then, if the mother has some work and tells the child, while you are at school, I'll just visit this place, I'll just go here, get some grocery, get these things. And the child will say, okay, no problem. Slowly and gradually, she drops him and picks him, does not stay with him. And he's habituated to that atmosphere, that environment. But again, after the play school, when he goes to primary school, again there is a resistance. Similarly, when a person again grows up and goes to a secondary school, again he feels as if his freedom from that primary school is now getting lost. And from this college, from the secondary school to the higher secondary, and from the higher secondary to the college, and from the college to the university. Every time he has to let go of something which he was comfortable till now and try to pick up something and trying to adjust that in his life so that he is comfortable with whatever has come. This is a natural phenomena for everybody in the world. No soul is an exception. No great soul is an exception. No, everybody has to go through this treatment. Right? This is just at the physical level. But at the subtle level, similarly, if I induce that practice, initially I may feel that my freedom is going away, but it was not freedom. It was something useless. Just as a person had built a building, but it is of no use. And he wants to set up something for himself, an office or something, and he breaks off that building and sets up that beautiful building in the backyard, and from where he can function easily, and so that he would not forget of what has to be done, would always memorize. Practice makes a man perfect. The more we get into this practice, the more I'll be able to stabilize my mind completely in deep remembrance. And from that remembrance, I would gain something in my life. I would gain something. So this was the chapter on meditation and karma. Meditation is very essential in today's age, because if I don't have meditation, it will become very difficult for me to survive in the coming years. Because it is only through meditation that I can empower myself to that level that we will be able to always be successful in life. Right? So to achieve something, you may have to give up, may have to sacrifice some things. But then only there is achievement. If I'm not ready to sacrifice, no achievement. And in order to master it, practice, 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 and you master it finally. So this was the third chapter where God is trying to explain Arjuna why the mind is so wandering and how to control that wandering mind and master it. Till now, what has happened? We had become slaves to our senses. We were slaves to our thoughts. We were slaves to our emotions. So when we were slaves, we can't master. But the moment I let go of that sanskara of slave, and I become a master. Now I know with what technique I can master my mind forever. And it is true. It is true. We can do it. Together, we can do it. Together, if I can change myself, I can change the entire world around me. And this is such a beautiful notion. We just need to experience it. The more we are able to experience it, the more we will feel as if we are enlightened. And the more I am enlightened from within, what happens? I can control my thoughts, intellect, and the senses. Because the senses are good servers, but very bad masters. So we can't make them masters, otherwise they're going to drive me mad. So let me master these vices, weaknesses, and then see around. Everything is changing. A beautiful way that God has explained to Arjuna how we are able to master our mind, intellect, and senses. Otherwise, they can drive me mad. We can see why the senses are driving people mad. Today one mobile, second day another one, third day another one. Today I want this, today I want that, today I want this. And every day there is new demands, new expectations, and new way of just getting slaves. So I need to come into that state of master, and I need to master my senses in a beautiful way that even though when I go into that field and all those friends and relatives, they may come up, I have the highest form of love, which is known as the soul love. We can love each and every human being as a soul. We can visualize them as souls because we have got this knowledge at this time. That how we have to see. We can induce those sanskaras in us. Then only when the world gets transformed from the old age to the new age, we can easily get transferred from this to that. And it will be a wonderful experience. So for a few moments, let us sit back, try to meditate, stabilize ourselves in the soul conscious stage first of all. Because when I stabilize in that consciousness, I can take my mind on that beautiful, smooth journey towards the Supreme Being. Okay? So for a few moments, sit relaxed and just either see or focus your mind on those images which you have in front of you on the screen of your mind. That is a point of light. Visualize yourself as a soul, a divine energy, point of radiating light, full of radiance. So beautiful. This body is just like a costume that I've put on to play my role. But I am the master. For a few moments, let us take the mind on a spiritual journey. I travel through my thoughts and my intellect, away from this physical world and to another world, a divine world where there is constant golden red light, and I visualize my Supreme Father, who is also so radiant, point of light. He has a beautiful radiance of all divine qualities. As I take my mind and intellect closer to Him, I can visualize that I'm engulfed by His rays of light and might. Such a beautiful feeling. I feel I'm relaxed completely. And with the power of light and might from the Supreme, which penetrates through me, re-energizing me. And I re-energize from within. Slowly and gradually I feel being recharged with the powers of the Supreme, the powers of the Almighty is like a canopy for me. And I'm so safe and protected in that canopy. I feel I'm regenerating from within. My mind is focused on the Supreme. Such a beautiful feeling. Being stabilized in this soul conscious stage. Slowly and gradually, I bring back my mind and intellect to this physical world. In the center of the forehead, I visualize myself. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So, thank you all very much for being with us in this evening and learning the third chapter of how to master the mind. We shall meet next Wednesday again at this time with some more beautiful gems of knowledge, gems of wisdom. Thanks to our Canberra Center sisters and our main coordinating brother from Sydney. Thanks to everyone who are with us on this evening. All brothers and sisters, thank you so much.